Hello! Hi! Good morning, everyone! I am actually looking into my laptop just now because I do see a lot of people coming in. And I already see like quite some people. Welcome. I will also give you a bit of time so that everyone joins. Okay, great. So, welcome. My name is Andrea, Partner Development Manager at Microsoft, focusing on technology companies. And today I'm gonna talk together with my great guest speakers about how to build and accelerate SaaS businesses through strategic partnerships. I hope everyone is like super excited for the event this morning. And I will also just set up some ground rules. We will have a lovely conversation with Gullik and Roy. And you are very welcome to address any questions that you may have. Also throughout the conversation that we will have. But just a quick note, I will actually take them at the end of our conversation, if that's okay with everyone. So, okay. Shall we get going?
Let's. Sure.
Awesome. So first of all, let's do a quick round of introductions, right? Like any other team meeting. And I will start with Gullik. Good morning. How are you today?
Good morning. I'm good.
Great. If you can just quickly introduce yourself, because I bet that everyone is like really curious to hear about you.
Right. My name is Gullik Jensen. I am the product director for digital services in maritime simulation, which is a part of Kongsberg Digital. And do you want more now, or do you want to?
So I would also love to hear something about your role, like what you enjoyed the most.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I'm a very lucky man, because what I really like to do is to create and innovate. And in my current role and position in maritime simulation, we're now changing the maritime industry in the domain of training and education. We are, Kongsberg is a large Norwegian company with, I think, 11,000 people. But it's a very diversified company as well, working in many domains. And one of the domains is the maritime. And in that domain, maritime training and education using simulators is our domain. And we are now right in the middle of transforming that entire industry into the digital economy. And I think that is a really, really exciting transformation that we're doing.
Absolutely. And I think that we're going to talk a lot about it in the conversation today. But just before that, I also want to introduce Roy. Hello, Roy.
Hi.
How's it going?
Good. I'm doing well.
Awesome.
I'm Roy Cornelissen. I work at Xpirit as a consultant, software architect, and I've been involved with Gullik and Kongsberg Digital for the past 4 years already, helping them build the KSIM Connect solution.
Okay, great, awesome. And what do you love about your job?
What I like is being able to turn a vision, in this case the vision that Gullik has, to turn that into reality and making something tangible out of that. Okay. And I think a good example is actually last week. We are now in the Netherlands, but last week we were in Norway, working together with a team of Kongsberg Maritime to bring a pretty traditional application, an ECDIS, a chart application, bring that to a new technology stack, the web, and bring it on a ship and sail it in a fjord there in Norway. So last Friday we finished the week with the sailing trip, where our new software was actually guiding the captain. So that was really cool.
Super cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds really nice.
Yeah.
So you guys, actually, speaking of, I think I would like to, give our people on Teams a bit more context about Kongsberg Digital. So, Gullik, if you can just give us, a brief history of Kongsberg Digital, I think that would be really great. From your on-prem times to now. So how it was back then, how it is now, and what you strive for in the future.
Absolutely. Kongsberg Digital, you mentioned, is it was a carve-out from the Kongsberg Group some 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. And maritime simulation, which I represent and am part of, is part of that carve-out. But our history goes back more than 50 years. For more than 50 years, we have been working to enrich training and education for seafarers. And I think the very good position that we are in is that Kongsberg is actually on board. We are making maritime equipment, the group. And I think we have equipment on more than half of the entire fleet of 60,000 ships sailing globally. So that means every other seafarer out there already know our equipment. So what we're actually doing is we are assembling all of this into a simulator, which means it's a lot of real equipment, but it's all simulation in the back end, simulating the waves and the weather and the wind. And this actually creates a great training tool because it allows seafarers to experience situations that won't never happen for real.
Cool.
And also familiarize with the equipment and everything.
Yeah.
And traditionally, we all wrap this up into simulators, physical products with software and hardware, and we ship it to our customer and install it on sites, which are typical schools or other training centers.
Yeah.
And you ask about what's the change?
Yeah.
The change now is that we really want to make these tools, the ability to learn using simulators, more accessible, to democratize it, to take it to everyone.
Yeah.
And that's our shift now. Let's see what we can do, moving from a on-premise tool and make it available anytime and anywhere.
Yeah. It's something really interesting that you said. So Kongsberg Digital was or did not start as a cloud business, right? But you did move into this direction later on. I'm actually curious what triggered you to make this move.
That's very interesting, actually, because you're right. We've been doing this for some 50 years, and we've been really good at it for 50 years, and we found our way of doing this. And what's interesting to see is that the training and education that happens, many of the things that they teach have not really changed for almost as long. So it's a very traditional business.
Right.
But what we see now in the maritime industry is that there is a big change.
Yeah.
You know, you can argue that the maritime industry has been a bit slow in changing, but it's now picking up speed.
Right.
It's being pushed towards a more sustainable industry. And there's a lot of companies, just like Kongsberg and others, who are now putting a lot of effort into digitalizing it.
Right.
And providing a lot of new systems, procedures, and tools, which actually means that there's a lot of new things that need to be learned by the people operating the systems.
Yeah.
There's still going to be a lot of people doing it, which means lifelong learning now becomes so much more relevant than it has ever been before.
Yeah.
So that's an important drive. And we've actually consulted our customers because we have quite a number of customers and they are loyal and they are long-term customers, which allows us to communicate with them and listen to them.
Yeah.
And they told us, you know, the most important thing you can do for us is allow us to bring the simulation training beyond the training centers.
Yeah.
So that has been one of our goals and most active ambitions to do.
Yeah. I think it's great how you guys made your customers a core component of your transformation, and how you actually, listened to them a lot and implemented also their feedback and their input.
I think it's critical because what we saw initially when we started exploring this 5 years or more back is that there is so much potential. There's so many things that can be done. And when we talk to the customers, there's all these ideas. So the big challenge for us is actually to pick what has most value for the most customers.
Right. So your goal or your dream as a company is to enrich the learning in the maritime industry. So this has always been your goal or your mission, right? But I believe that your approach has changed a bit. This is what I understand from what you are telling me now.
Yes.
I want to understand how you adjusted your approach, but at the same time, how were you able to keep the existing business running? because I get this question as a partner development manager from the companies that I collaborate with, and they always ask me, you know, like, we want to innovate, right? We maybe want to change our approach to our things, but we also have to be conscious that we have this business that still has to run in the background. We have to manage somehow these two. We have to do them both at the same time, and it is a known challenge. So how was this for you?
Yes, and you're absolutely right. It is a balance, and it's really important to maintain the existing business and keep it running, because of course that's the fuel into the transition.
Yeah.
Because it takes time. But what you mentioned also is that, you know, we are doing this shift, and we acknowledge that, you know, what we really want to do is to help our customers to achieve their goals of making a safer maritime industry with more educated and efficient people.
Yeah.
And actually, this digital transformation is actually not a shift in that direction. It's simply an enabler to do it better. But there are, of course, many challenges along the way to do this. So I think what we did initially was to try to grasp the ideas, because you know, cloud 5 years ago, cloud and what this was supposed to be was very fuzzy for us internally, and definitely for our customers. So I think that's something that has been very important, is to try to bring it down to a level where it actually makes sense and adds value. So we started small, and after all, as we grow and we get tangible, it takes more and more space on the stage, if you like.
And form, right. And you know, I also understand you already broke down a few steps, right, that you took into your journey to the cloud. But also I'm curious about the steps that you took towards implementing a SaaS model, right? Because you started on-prem, later you moved to the cloud, but then SaaS, you know, was kind of like what you were going towards. So I want to understand, like, why you decided to go for a SaaS model, and the steps that you took towards this direction, and maybe also Roy can answer here as well, support you, because of course they were an essential part of this.
True.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges of the existing model is that these simulators, especially the bigger ones, are fairly complex systems. They consist of multiple computers, screens, and hardware. So they are fairly complex to set up. And of course, there's still a very important market for it. They're classified, or they're certified, I should say. So in order to do real exams, you need to be on those simulators. But it is very hard to get people on them because they are limited resources. There can only be so many people on them at the same time. So that's what actually triggered the idea of, okay, can we take the heart of the simulation, which is the simulation core and the calculation engine, can we put that into the cloud? And we searched for several models to do that, and I think the first iteration we did was actually a fairly traditional client-server application, where the simulator was in the cloud, but the client was still on the desktop. But we learned quite quickly that scaled only up to a certain point, because we still had to do with Windows software that needs to be compatible. So we quickly learned the web is the way to go. So for our next,
not to mention firewalls,
etc. So for our next iteration, for our next product, which was the navigation simulator, we knew we have to go fully to the web. Which meant that we had to reinvent the whole UI basically, and re-implement it to some extent. So that was sort of the challenge that we faced there. But it was a gradual process that we learned how to approach that from a technical angle, especially.
Right. And I want to ask you, you know, from an Xpirit perspective, but also from a Kongsberg perspective, what were the main challenges? So you mentioned something on the technical side, but also I'm curious on the business side, right? So some challenges that you have seen, but also opportunities that implementing this SaaS model brought to you. So you can decide, like, who wants to.
I'll do a little bit on the business side.
Okay.
Because you know, talking about democratization, bringing the simulator to more people.
Yeah.
This actually naturally falls in because number one, let's get it working so it's actually available in the cloud.
Yeah.
That's a big hurdle. But the next thing, which is the hurdle for our customers, is the investment cost.
Right.
For traditional products, if you want to buy it from us, you have to buy it.
Yeah.
So you do all your investment up front and install it. And of course, that's going to be a hurdle for many people who might not have that money up front. Yeah. So the natural continuation of that is to switch it into a SaaS model so that they can subscribe to it. Yeah. And then hence, avoid that hurdle to enter.
Right.
So that's a very good thing, I think, from the customer, and that also allows them to change their subscription more frequently. If you buy a full setup, typically it will be operating for maybe as much as 10 years. Yeah. But with a subscription, it allows you to change it more rapidly when your needs changes.
Correct.
And of course, from our perspective, it's a more predictable income. It's more stable.
Indeed.
So that's definitely a benefit from the business perspective as well.
Yeah, great, awesome. I'm looking at Roy now.
For the technical.
From the corner of my eye, I'm waiting for.
Yeah, I think before we started, we actually knew containerization is the way we should go. And it was already a big hype, or I should say a big trend in the industry. A hype is usually overrated. Yeah. So we knew that was the way to go. But the challenge was these simulators are fully Windows-based software. And especially at the time, it was made to be installed on servers. They had some UI on them, so it was not trivial to put that software into containers. Yeah. Still, we chose to go that route. So we went with Windows containers. We made sure that the application was able to run headless, and we knew that at that point it was preview technology. It was fairly new. Containers came from the Linux world, but Windows was new. And we also knew that orchestrating those containers in the cloud in Azure was also preview technology. Okay. So yes, there was an opportunity because we knew that the technology was there, but the risk was it was fairly preview tech. Right. And indeed, we suffered some pains from that. Having close relations with Microsoft helped us know that, okay, this is where the industry is going. We know that eventually there would be something like a Kubernetes on Azure, fully managed. Yeah. So we had a growing path to work towards. Yeah. And that was the big opportunity that we saw. And we went with it. And I think in the end it was a good choice, even though it had some bumps and hoops in the road.
I can imagine that also helped a bit in mitigating the risk of adopting this new technology. Yeah,
we were able to make a sort of an educated decision on, we know this is the way, this is the direction it's moving, so we should go with this. And having taken that step of containerizing the application, we now know what needs to be done to further make it more cloud native, maybe even migrate it to Linux, or taking the next steps to modernizing the actual simulator software.
Right.
So it's in that sense, it's also a feedback loop that created itself.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
And also personal curiosity, right? Because Kongsberg Digital and Xpirit are technology partners. So to me, and you guys are working together for quite some time now, you know each other really well. And so I'm always curious about how you manage the whole collaboration between an existing, very knowledgeable developers team, right? And the developers of Xpirit. I'm curious how you went about that dynamic, and if there was a process there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You want to take it from the Kongsberg side?
I'll take the motivation part of it.
Yeah.
Why? Yeah. Because time to market and speed is really, really important. And as was mentioned here just briefly, we are an organization, we've been doing the same thing for many years, which means we are very well established in our existing technology. But that means that we also lack some of the knowledge and maybe the guts to change direction. So in order for us to actually go where we needed to go, we needed to team up with someone who could do two things really, to come in and help us to make the right decisions early. Mm-hmm. So we do the right decision right away. And also to help us build this knowledge into our organization so that our developers also gain this knowledge for the long run.
Yeah.
So that's the two motivations for doing this.
All right.
Yeah.
Roy, how did you experience?
So what we as Xpirit, the way we work is, you could basically talk about two different models. First, we work with Microsoft quite closely when it comes to working with local account managers to help make customers effective.
Okay.
So that is beneficial to us, of course, but also for Microsoft to get some great customer cases. But on the other hand, we also have a lot of people who have very close relationships with development teams in Redmond, working on new Azure services. So we know what's coming. Again, coming back to what I said earlier, we know sort of where the industry is heading, where Microsoft is heading, what their strategy is.
Yeah.
So we can help customers make technical decisions on where to go. And the way we work is we always go in with the teams, into the team. So it's not just standing on the side as a consultant shouting what they should do. We show it, we work with them, and I've been working as an architect and developer in the team for the past 4 years together with my colleagues and the India team and other people in Norway to develop the product together. And then that allows us to learn a lot about the maritime industry and the domain, because there's a lot of knowledge in the teams about how simulators work, what is a boat, how does it work. But from our side, bringing in the knowledge about how do you develop software for the cloud in a scalable manner? How do you build a SaaS software, multi-tenancy, all kinds of aspects that you need to think about when you do cloud software.
Amazing. I'm hearing like a lot of good stuff, and mainly I'm hearing that you guys complemented each other really well. This is maybe more of a intriguing or cheeky question at my end, but I cannot help it. Like I really have to put it out there now. Do you have any horror story? Because like so far, I only hear like success stories. Like we have the knowledge and then we collaborated great together. And so is there any horror story that you experience like in the transformation or in the partnership, right? and okay, let me just create some clarity. Maybe it was not like a horror story per se, but maybe it was like that moment when you had to pivot, right? So you thought, actually we are comfortable with the direction that we're going. We think that this is going pretty well, until it didn't, and you realize that the change is very much needed in order to progress. So just to give you more options, right? More breathing space.
Yeah. Well, there's, I think, multiple stories we could share. One has to do with the technology layer, where at some point we were working with Windows containers, and it was technology that was work in progress. And in phases like that, Microsoft is prone to breaking changes. And it happened one day that they released a security patch which broke all of our images on production. And actually the platform was picking up pace. We were adding more simulations per day, and suddenly stuff didn't work anymore. So we really had to go in and see what the problem was, upgrade multiple clusters, juggle containers, and I think it took us almost 2 days to get back up to speed again. With the help of Microsoft, with the product, with the support team. So that was very good. But that made us think about, okay, we are really dependent on a platform that is changing, that is prone to maybe breaking at some point. So we learned how to build in extra defenses into the software to make it more resilient, and also better monitoring and better alerting. So that also constantly changed throughout the process. And maybe other things. I think also the product itself also sort of shifted over the past 4 years from only doing simulations on demand to becoming a full-fledged e-learning platform where you have exercise management and student management. And I think that also evolved from seeing how the customers use it. You should also not be afraid of changing the vision or the direction on what the product actually is based on how it's used, how the demand from the customer is.
Yeah.
I think when it comes to horror stories, the worst horror story that I can imagine, which fortunately didn't happen, is that you spend a lot of time and effort creating a product that you really believe in, and then you put it out there to the customers, to the market, and they won't have it.
Yeah.
They won't buy it.
Yeah.
That's the worst story.
Yeah.
And of course that's the big risk, and there's many risks along the way. But I think what we've been very conscious about is that we don't want to get in that situation. That's why we from day one have been talking and communicating both our intentions, our motivations, and all our little goals. We've been providing early access, preview access. We have a reference group among our customers that we talk to. So we're constantly communicating to avoid running into these big horror stories that could potentially be there. So I'm actually quite happy about not being able to give you a big business side horror story
like a disaster.
Like a disaster. But don't be mistaken, there is a lot of challenges, and that goes with it is in many arenas, because it's the technical ones, it's the ones that deals with our organization actually balancing an existing product and way of doing things with doing it a new way, which means that our organization also have to sort out how to deal with this. And often that's a bit of a challenge, because of the way the different traditional business are measuring their value and their KPIs. Of course, this contradicts it. It introduced a whole new set of doing this. So there's a challenge, definitely. And also we learned that bringing the customers along, because they're not ready instantly. They also have to do that process. And I think that's why it's so important that we've been sharing and communicating and listening all along.
Absolutely. I mean, I did hear a lot, about products that were great, and then they ended up on the market, and they experience that there's no appetite for it. So and I really think that you've done a fantastic job in bringing the customers on your journey, that you listened to them and took their feedback and input and actually implementing it. I also understand that you have a super strong connection with your customers. I also want to address a question because there are many companies out there that maybe don't have necessarily like a close relationship with their customers, and so is there any advice that you can give to them in how they can incorporate more of their customers' feedback into the way they develop their products?
Certainly, but I'd like to tell them something, because when you're a startup, you start from nothing. Of course, you don't have any legacy. You're not trapped to have to take that into account. But companies like us, and I think that goes for many others, that legacy is quite valuable. You have a product, you have customers, you have customer commitments, you have history, you have credibility. And these things are really your great advantage. Not to mention that if you're part of an organization who already has a profitable business line that has the ability to carry you through that process, I would say that you are in a very good position to start working on that transformation. Because you do not have the risks that startups have. Majority of them fail simply because they run out of money. So you have a great advantage if you manage to do it along with your existing business. Right. And if you can, because I did hear a few tactics of doing this. How did you go about this process? Like you said that you gave them like preview access, and so was there anything else? Yes, we have an annual users conference for our customers.
Okay.
So we've been using this actively every year. So when we started out and outlined our intentions, we actually brought it to them in a workshop, and we even have them vote. And on priorities, and also share and have active discussions with them at the time. And and that was very useful.
Yeah.
They gave us the direction.
Okay.
And as we moved forward, we had reference group or group meetings, more frequent than the annual users conference, where we actually show and tell and discuss.
Yeah.
And we have the users conference, which is really every time it's in October. That's really when the biggest delivery to Roy and the team is.
Yeah.
We have to get this ready because we want to showcase and we want the users to actually see and touch.
Yeah.
Because that's when we have their attention.
Yeah.
That's when we have these very good dialogues with them.
Yeah.
And also through what we actually built, we've gone from a traditional way of selling where the customer will approach our sales team and they'll have a traditional sales process to actually start exposing them on our web portal.
Okay.
And also make it possible to actually purchase a subscription online.
Okay.
So we're actually moving towards a customer-driven purchase process.
Yeah.
Which I think, because we intend to scale,
Right.
and then we have to be prepared and facilitate for this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
and
in
also
this
move
way-
the sales process online, so not
Yes, and of course we are also doing these things. We're talking, sharing in different forums.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah, I think the
Great.
self-service part is a very important one. When you talk about SaaS software, it should be really easy to go. People can just go and sign up at KSM Connect, sign up themselves, go into the marketplace and start working without any intervention of a salesperson that, eventually a deal is closed, of course. But
of course.
And that should be a very low barrier of entry. And that's what we created. And I think we also learned about, some customers are fairly traditional, so they have their yearly spend. And then, we sort of fit into that model, but
and some are governments.
And some are governments.
So then they'll do in certain ways. True. But we are learning, and we also now have a small team for customer success, which is now answering the calls, responding to these, and also keeping in mind how can we facilitate that easy adoption of the product. How can we facilitate so that you can have easy, learn how to use the product, FAQ type of things, videos to show you how to use it. Because everything is down to that, we want to lower the hurdles, not only, bringing them out there and lowering the investment cost, but we also need to make them easy to use. So every hurdle we need to smooth out.
Yeah. No, amazing.
And that reference group you mentioned, I think it's very important that we have that, because we have a few customers who said, okay, we're going to bet on this. We're going to help you start with a preview version of your product. And when it really had some rough edges, but they started using it and they started giving us feedback. And this is how we use it in the classroom. This is how we schedule exercises. And that helped us shape the product quite extensively. And that's very valuable to have that kind of a reference group.
And definitely, like you also say, that we have some early customers, early adopters.
Very loyal ones.
Who you could actually say are almost, collaborating partners. That also help us.
Yeah. So it was really like whenever I hear about your customers, the word that comes to mind is like co-creation almost.
Yeah. Definitely.
Because they were there for you at the beginning of your transformation, and you brought them along with you, and I really think that's beautiful. You guys, I have a final question for you before we take some questions from the chat. Would you be up for that?
Absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Also, maybe a shout out to the people on the call. If you have any questions to either Roy or Gullik, please feel free to drop them in the chat, and we will take them in a second. So you can just drop them there. A final question, because of course Xpirit is a Kongsberg digital technology partner. You guys are. You guys have a very close relationship, and so I'm curious what role the partnership with Microsoft played, because of course Kongsberg Digital is also a Microsoft partner, and I just want to understand how these three parties complemented each other, because this is me just like circling back a bit to also the title and the name of our event today, because this is our way of building and accelerating successful SaaS businesses. So I also want to understand a bit how these three parties like really work together to take off.
Yeah.
You can put them in a context. What you see is that we're actually now shifting a lot of our technology into Azure to be delivered on Azure as a platform, which means we become very dependent on Microsoft for doing that, which means the ability to actually have that partnership, to have that direct link with Microsoft in order to be able to talk, learn, and elaborate on this is really important.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily something that we do on an everyday basis, but we do have touch points and we talk. On the more everyday basis, we rely on Roy and Xpirit and the developers to actually have direct contact with the tech side of it.
Right. Yeah.
So, but it all comes down to the fact and the acknowledgement that, traditionally we used to deliver everything. We made all the software, we put it into the hardware, which we purchased, and we shipped it to your site, and we installed it, and we sent a guy to train you, right? We did everything. That was the business.
Yeah.
But the main shift now is that we don't want to do all that anymore. Actually, we can't do it anymore. Actually, it's better if we don't, but we actually focus on what we are good at.
Right.
Which is bringing the simulation out there in our domain knowledge and our technology. And then we collaborate with Microsoft and Xpirit.
Yeah.
And actually we'll collaborate with anyone who is ready to share our vision of improving maritime training and education for the benefit of the seafarers and the industry.
Yeah.
Everyone who shares that objective is someone we're willing to team up with.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And also I understand that on Xpirit's side of things, I think you even as Xpirit have even more connection in a way to Microsoft, especially from a technology perspective.
Yeah.
We as Microsoft are really about like supporting you with our experts and our knowledge in regards to what's upcoming.
That's correct. Yeah. As I mentioned, we have close relationship with development teams even in Redmond, working on new services in Azure, but also existing ones.
Yeah.
And just as passionate as we are about building our product, they are passionate about building their product. So any feedback that we give them is that they're very curious about how is it used, is it working as expected? Oh, we can change this, we can improve it. So that's a really cool feedback cycle that we have. And also we've had several calls with Microsoft product advisors that reviewed our solution architecture we made for KSM Connect. And they helped us, they guide us through, okay, these are the choices you made. Maybe you can change something here, or you can benefit from certain other services there. So they also think with us on how to improve and evolve our product as well.
Yeah.
So that, in that way, it also works both ways.
Yeah.
So very valuable calls on that side. And that was actually through the partnership of Kongsberg and Microsoft that we sat together and talked about these things.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is really great to hear how the partnerships really help out a business innovate and adapt, and that only makes me happy. So now I would just like to take any questions that the audience may have, and now I'm looking at the chat. I know that I cannot see you guys or hear you, but I'm really inviting you to drop your questions. May you have any, but I see that you've been awfully silent. So I would like, okay, I see a question coming in, so maybe we can take this one first. So are you ready? You cannot see the question, so like it doesn't even matter. I'm just gonna ask it anyway. So how did Kongsberg and Xpirit became partners? How did it start? Like when you guys didn't even meet, right? So how did you find each other, maybe?
That's interesting. And I know that Xpirit now exists for 7+ years, and Kongsberg was actually our first customer. And it came through connections that we had with someone working at Kongsberg. I think he'd been working with Kongsberg for years already. Actually, the question was about Kongsberg was having trouble in a predictable way delivering their software, and it was becoming slower and slower at that point, 7 years back.
Okay.
So the question was, maybe Xpirit can help Kongsberg to work on software quality, work on the software process, automated delivery, etc. That's how we came in. Mm-hmm. And we started doing that. Actually, not me personally, but my colleagues. And that's how the relationship started with Kongsberg. And it grew over time. And I think, we're now in a position where a team is now working on this whole new platform. So I think we built mutual trust over the years to be in the position that we are right now.
That's true. You came in very early, and we were and are the first customer. And I think that what you were able to deliver at the time built that confidence, and it has grown from there.
Yeah.
So that's key, building confidence.
Yeah. And also, I think this also kind of circles back to your needs at that time, right? And how you actually made the decision to partner up with Xpirit, because Xpirit was had to give something that was very important to you back in the day. So
absolutely,
yes, which was mostly about application lifecycle management and DevOps. Before it was DevOps, actually.
So we've got another question. Can you tell a bit about how you monitor server cloud costs upfront before running your complex scaling simulations? Upfront, yes.
Well, what we do is of course, we monitor everything that we do as much as possible, so we know exactly when a session starts, when it ends, and we also learned quite a lot about the resources that it takes to run a simulation, because it takes a certain amount of memory and a certain amount of CPU, and we learned to adjust our monitoring and our alerting system to such an extent that we now know, okay, this is sort of the scale that we need in terms of number of nodes that we need in our cluster. And of course, every node has a cost associated to it. That allowed us to scale the system because there's bursts of usage. Sometimes, some periods it's quiet, some periods it's busier because there are exams. Yeah. So we see in our monitoring that there is a curve rising, and we should scale. Okay. One thing we haven't got in place yet is completely automatic scaling. That's a process that we're now working on to get that fully automatic. But it's a learning process. So I can't really say that we know exactly upfront what the spend will be, but we are in a pretty good position that we know how the system is doing. Yeah. And we know when to scale up or when to scale down.
Yeah, this is where you're addressing it from the technical side. Yeah, from the business side, of course, I'm the one being concerned in this respect. Yeah, because we're using a lot of resources, because it's not a database or a web page we're talking about. It's actual simulators who typically, whenever they launch, the containers are more than 10 gigabytes. Yeah. And which require heavy servers, even GPU. So it's quite expensive. Yeah. And what we acknowledge is also that it's a leap of faith that we have taken, because we do rely heavily on scale. Yeah. And that's always at the forefront of our minds, and of also the sales team and effort to bring it sufficiently to that level, to where it can scale. Yeah. Because it's a game of scale. We have to scale in order to get the revenue we hope for.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but of course there is an interim time which we try to get as low as possible. Yeah. But this is where the benefit of being part of an organization who already have a steady business can help us out.
Yeah. absolutely. I also love how, we kind of divided roles here. We got the technical perspective and also the business perspective. I love it.
But it is a feedback loop, because if you talk about cost, then that also feeds back into the software. I sometimes joke that we put a 30-year-old simulator in the cloud, which to some extent is true, because parts of the code are 30 years old. But it is existing software that in the end you need to adapt it to the way that it runs in the cloud, to the scale that it requires, and to also the cost efficiency. So it's not like you put it in the cloud and you're done. No, it's an iterative process, and I think we're now at a point where we really start modernizing that core, where it's more efficient, and hopefully, well, that's the plan, of course, to be more cost efficient as well.
But really, I think that was one of the really important things we did, was not trying to reinvent this from scratch, but actually to take the existing 30-year technology and package it. And deliver it.
And that's an important message, that is possible.
Yes, and that's actually, so anyone who has technology that can be used in this way does have an advantage, because it allows you to move fast. And if you're successful, then of course the business will grow, and you will have the time and ability to optimize and make it more efficient.
Amazing. Super.
And I think this is, can I share a success story with you?
Please go ahead.
Yes, because
now you're getting enthusiastic, right?
I love doing this.
It's like going down the memory lane.
Memory lane is beautiful. You remember the good parts. In Norway, where we are, the Prime Minister came on media on March 12th, 2000, when Corona hit, and actually said, all schools, now you need to close. No students in school anymore. And keep in mind, at that time, we hadn't launched any product yet. And that means all the maritime schools in Norway, and that's our home market, so they were all our customers, all of a sudden, they had to stop their training. And keep in mind, this is March, examination period is coming up. So that's really bad. What we decided to do the next Monday morning was actually to reach out to all our customers in Norway and say that, we have a product. It's not 100% done yet, but you can have it. Take it and use it. It's definitely better than having nothing. And they did. And many of those schools managed to complete their examinations of their students who managed to graduate with sufficient training and documentation to earn their certificates. So that was really a proud moment, because we managed to do exactly what our intention were, to actually help our customers achieve their objectives.
In a critical moment, though. In a critical moment, I must say, and I think, it was also very brave of you, in a very uncertain time with a lot of risks. You're like, we're going to help the customers. Yes, maybe the product is not finished yet. It's not going to be perfect, but hey, it will serve our purpose, and we're only going to learn from this experience. So
definitely.
And in the monitoring we did seeing the increase of numbers of sessions, and that's where we learned about, this is how the system behaves under load. And we made some changes behind the scenes, but we managed, and it held up. And it was quite successful.
Yes. Super cool.
I was happy about that.
Very happy about that.
I've got 2 more questions, and Gullik, I would like you to help me out here a bit, because I see that they're more business-oriented, right? So how are you bringing your solution to life with not only the technical decision makers, but also the business decision makers? And what role has Microsoft played, if any?
Yes, what we do, because this is such an important initiative, it's not treated as any other project. So we have a governance board which meet regularly, where management is actually taking part and meeting also the myself and also the project manager who runs all the numbers, so that they're always up to date. So it has special attention in the organization to do this. And we do have meetings occasionally with Microsoft, and you will probably see soon that the solution will be offered on Microsoft Marketplace. So we'll be there shortly. But this is mainly driven internally right now.
No, that's great. And also I see that the next question is related almost to the same thing, because another person is asking, how have you used Microsoft in your go-to-market? So I can assume that marketplace is one of the components of your strategy. Was there anything else?
I think, yes, the marketplace is one. But I think that when it comes to, when we are telling our story, naturally we will tell that we build it on top of Azure, which is made by Microsoft. And it does have credibility.
Right.
So I think that's an important part.
Yeah.
To say also that we do partner up and we do rely on these services, and they are proven.
Yeah.
They are being developed, but they're still proven. And I think that's one of the things we see with Microsoft also, is that, even though they don't get it right first time, they keep evolving and they'll get there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's also a bet we made early on. And also with a lot of this preview technology, we were saying that we gamble that they'll get this right. And they'll stick to their plan and deliver.
Yeah, well, I like to call it an educated guess, but
definitely.
Well, we are here today, so something might have gone right.
Yeah, exactly.
But also, may I ask another one of my cheeky questions today? Right? Was there ever like a decision? Was there always Azure, or did you? There was a time when you were, considering, other cloud providers, or it was like from the beginning you're like, well, we hope that they're going to get it right, but we're going to go with Azure. So
this is, it's not a small decision to make. So this was actually one of the first things when Kongsberg Digital was established 5 years ago. One of the early things that was actually done was to evaluate the different options.
Yeah.
So of course then Amazon and Google and even Alibaba was involved in this considerations. Course. So a proper assessment was done at that level, and then Azure was chosen at that time. And of course then that was adopted throughout the organization, because we want to unite on that platform in order to for the benefit of it.
Yeah.
So no, it was not just random.
No.
It was a decision made.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And why I'm asking this is that I know that many companies that are on their cloud journey go through this decision-making process, right? So it's not something taboo or anything like this. Like they do need to go for a provider that fulfills their needs. In your case, this was Azure.
That's true. And at the top management level of Kongsberg Digital, there is a close link also to Microsoft to maintain this, because simulation, which we represent, is one of the business units in digital. We are also working with digital twins, and also something called Vessel Insight. And all of these applications are heavy users of Azure technology. So we as a company need to, at the management level, to keep that close relation to ensure that we can continue to do business for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there is a certain advantage you get when you tap into specific services that, in this case, Azure offers you. It gives you a technical advantage. But we have plenty of customers who say, no, we have to make our system cloud agnostic. So we use standard-based technology, don't leverage specific platforms, but stay cloud agnostic. And there's ways to do that. And it helps you move between vendors quite easily, if that's a strategic choice that you have to take.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it is an important decision that can drive the future of the platform.
Indeed, and this is also a very good example of of the fact that choosing your cloud provider is a very strategic decision, if I may add.
But I think it's interesting what you're saying, because it might represent some of the old way of thinking, where you do a lot of investment in a product, and you expect it to be self-contained and deliver value over a long time afterwards, where you do very little to it. That's why you want it to, you want to have the flexibility to change it. But that contradicts some of the other objectives, which I think is very important to us, which is speed to market. We really want to take advantage of the technology that we can in order to have speed, because actually taking that position, getting into the market and establishing a position is much more important, because if you can manage, you will generate revenue and you will then be able to mature your solution, like you mentioned. So, and in fact, like web technology that we're dealing with for our front ends, they are quickly changing anyway.
Right.
There's really nothing we
Very
can do
rapid.
about it. So we have to also acknowledge what we can change
Yeah.
and what we can't. So what we are constantly doing is trying to take our domain knowledge and move it more and more server side
Yeah.
Yeah.
and have a thin front.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. This is your
that's
domain.
correct. The web
So
Yeah.
so that when the next version or technology comes along, we'll
Yeah.
update with it.
certain parts are easier to change. And in the end, of course, it's all software, so it
Yeah.
can be changed. But yes, it's true. The number of times we've heard that, we have to make this system able to switch database providers like SQL Server or Oracle.
Mm-hmm.
Almost never happens. Usually it just stays on SQL Server.
Yeah.
And same goes with cloud providers usually. But you're correct. There are certain areas in the system that are prone to more change, and certain areas where you can really gain speed by just choosing this. We do this on Azure because right now it's the right fit.
Well,
and that's also is back to the SaaS model, because that will generate an income, because we know we'll constantly have to update and improve the system. But
you'll
if
have to get going.
Yeah, but if you get a healthy SaaS business, there's always this predictable income that can maintain the system.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you guys, first of all, I think it's impressive the amount of change that you have gone through and adjusted to and implemented. So, to me, it was really interesting and enjoyable to participate in this conversation today. We have 5 more minutes, actually, and I would like to, close with addressing one final question from me to you. So thinking about other companies out there that want to move to a SaaS model, if you could give one advice or something that you wish you knew before you started, that you can share with them.
That I wish I knew.
That you wish you knew.
Or advice, right? Just coming from you, right? As a technology partner and as a company that has experience with changing and adapting and innovating.
I think the most important is to acknowledge the fact that you can't really predict. You can't know the future, but you know who you're targeting and you know who you work with. So partner with them. Mm-hmm. Share your thoughts. Share your experiences, listen, and evolve this as a journey together.
Right.
I think that's the most important thing, because the moment you believe that you know what this is going to be in the future, or what the customer is going to need in the future, you're by definition wrong.
Yeah.
It's dynamic. Everything is dynamic.
Right.
So
you should
let
be prepared
go.
to be reinventing yourself a few times, perhaps, and maybe throw away some things that you did. But also realize what you already have in terms of, in this case, the simulator, a very important asset that we took and put into the cloud. Certainly, other companies have something similar to that, and you shouldn't think about having to throw that away or building something completely from scratch, because that will set you back maybe months or years, perhaps.
Yeah.
See if you can find some way to leverage what you have, maybe by repackaging it, maybe by modernizing it, but you have something to start with.
Yeah.
So that's also important.
And if you can manage to make that very fuzzy domain of cloud and out there, and pull it down to make something tangible, you don't have to get the whole picture, but start by making something tangible, because that will take you one step.
Yeah.
It's so much easier to sit down with some proof of concept working thing and discuss with your potential customers or your existing customers and your technology team to elaborate. And I think that's really what made us capable of moving forward, is actually to try to do these proof of concepts fairly frequently.
Check it with the customer, see how they adopt it, how they like it, and then adjust. Okay. Gentlemen, it was lovely talking to you today.
Likewise.
Thanks a lot for participating in this conversation.
Thank you.
I hope it was entertaining.
Quite.
I hope that too.
I would like to also thank our audience today. Thanks a lot for joining, everyone. And you can always follow all three of us on LinkedIn for more updates, and also me, just for other events like this, nice conversations, hopefully, more with Xpirit and probably with Kongsberg, why not?
Hopefully.
Thanks a lot, everyone, and I hope that you're gonna have a nice day today. Bye.